And we're back.
Yeah, so we were talking over the break about hazing, right? And like, I think the ability for females to like physically haze people is rather challenging. But yeah, the psychological elements are definitely there. I would say that's probably a far more harmful form of hazing than like say drinking a lot of alcohol or physically hazing someone or something like that. But yeah, man, I think that people people don't realize what they're actually capable of, and sometimes it takes a little bit of pain and pressure to bring it out, or for them to realize how good they actually have it. Because I find that a lot of the complaints I hear about our society are sort of based on a perspective that is not really appreciating the wholeness of what it means to have a human experience, and that no one actually gives a fuck about anyone else, and they're really just trying to get through the day. Like they're just trying to make each day like what they can.
Remember,
So should America world the police or be the world police? We can talk about that.
America, I think, should only look out for the interests that it is necessary most to look out for. They should do the minimal amount possible, right?
Yeah. So America can't even police itself. So how are we going to be the world police? So there's that fact. The second one is really no. I don't think we should be the world police because the world can kind of fuck off. The United States is the most important country in the history of humanity. What we have achieved has been achieved with less violence, less atrocity, in a shorter amount of time, and on a greater scale than any other human recorded fucking organization ever. And on top of that, we've kept the same structure of government basically for the last 246 years. So this idea that America is some kind of evil country, like we have done fucked up shit, don't get me wrong. But the idea that we're somehow inherently evil or that we're a bad country, you can go fuck right off. And I say that, just give me 1 second. I say that mainly because up until World War II, when America really achieved its ability to project power and have a homogeny, there was a lot more atrocity in the world. Like, there's still atrocities going on today, but the scale, occurrence, and like, I mean, from the death marches to the fucking Holocaust to the Turks and the Armenians, like that shit was happening left and fucking right. And when the United States really stepped on the world stage, we put an end to that shit. We said, no, this is not acceptable on any level. So we don't get credit for that. We don't get enough credit for basically propping up NATO for the last fucking 40 years and then that it being a complete fucking failure of an organization. I think Donald Trump is an idiot, but I think he was pretty spot on when he called NATO a bunch of bullshit, because the fact that those countries don't have to provide for the health, the cost of defense, is why they're able to provide like robust social programs. Secondly, their robust social programs, specifically healthcare, nearly all medical technology breakthroughs occur through either U.S. companies or U.S. backed capital or U.S. capitalized companies. Like the overwhelming majority of medical research is done in the private sector in America. It's not done overseas. Like, yeah, there are medical breakthroughs done overseas, but not at the scale that the United States puts out. And that's just medicine. We're not talking about aerospace, information technology, signals technology, space, all that other shit. Excuse me. So, the United States has improved the quality of life for billions of people. We have provided a global stability that has been not seen for a very, very long time. We maintain open trade routes on the sea. We maintain peace where we can, and we try to give people the dignity to have the freedom to choose their own destiny. We fuck it up a lot, and we fuck people over often. But, hey, we're doing the best we can. And I think the best part about our country is the fact that we can iterate and improve it as we go along. What did you have to say? I'm sorry.
I was going to say, so you said that the United States has impacted the world on a scale that is unprecedented.
Mm-hmm.
So would you argue then that the British Empire didn't have the same level of influence as the United States? I mean, for God's sakes, they fucking overthrew the Chinese government because they wanted to sell them opium.
Yeah.
Right? They had far-flung reaches for every corner of the planet.
Empire the sun never set on.
Yeah, it's an empire on which the sun never sets, right? Yeah. And it still is.
Yeah, and we took it over because we changed the British pound to the U.S. dollar after World War II. That all the Commonwealth countries had to start accepting U.S. dollars. So that was one of the things that allowed the U.S. to really expand economically after World War II, was that we were able to export things to places where currencies, because people don't appreciate how complex currencies actually are and why cryptocurrency is so important, right? Because currencies can be influenced by governments, and they're the means of exchange between governments. And so coming back to that, the United States basically inherited the British Empire in the sense that all the Commonwealth countries and the former colonies,
all the financial institutions that it held, moved allegiances.
We were able to move in. Like, the United States is involved in countries that people can't even put on a map, but whatever. But yeah, man. What else do we want to talk about? And we could keep talking about that.
I think
world police. Yeah.
I think, as much as I am opposed to war happening, I think absolutely the United States and NATO as a whole, all the European countries, every Western democracy should be involved in the war in Ukraine. I think it's embarrassing to say that you stand up for freedom or that you believe in freedom when a country is having their freedom ripped away from them by another power, and they're defenseless, right? I
wouldn't call Ukrainians defenseless.
Well,
but
obviously they're able to defend themselves, but they're never going to win the war on their own, right? There's never going to be a situation in which they win. There's a situation in which they come out victorious in the sense that they got to keep their land, but they're never going to be the expanding country here, right? They're never going to truly win. There's never going to be any spoils for Ukraine.
Like, they're going into Moscow.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, it's the fact that the Western world would say that we support a democracy and we're not going to do anything to help Ukraine against a country that they're never going to have any true victory over.
Yeah.
That's sad. That's very sad. And I think
that's why
it's turning our backs on everything that we stand for. Absolutely. Or everything that we claim to stand for. Yeah. And we shouldn't claim to stand for it if we're not really going to back it up.
Yeah, man.
And you obviously, I'm sure you agree, Ukraine should have been part of NATO decades ago.
I don't know. So that's a complex issue, man. Like, Ukraine needs to figure its own destiny. Like, why does Ukraine need to join? Like, why does NATO exist? To push back against Russia. Well, Russia hasn't been Russia really since 1991, 92, whenever the USSR fell. So when the USSR fell, NATO should have probably dissolved too, because what it does is it creates an opposition. And when you create something to be opposed, like, it's going to get, like, we're creating self-fulfilling prophecies by leaving NATO to exist to counterbalance a Russian threat. You're just really saying, okay, so Russia's really going to invade. And then when they do, you don't do shit. Like, what the fuck is the point of NATO? Like, honestly, like, not to mock the thing, but it's like, where it's really easy to stand with Ukraine? Outside of Ukraine. Because if we were really serious about it, like, I was seeing on the news, there are former Marines who are in Ukraine getting shot at, like, fucking trading rounds with the fucking Russians. Like, a Marine died. Like, so that's, Marines, that's why I say Marines fight different. Like, fighting is in, like, physicality, and fighting aggression is just like ground into us. Like, that's one of the things that I had a really difficult time dealing with when I got out, was like, escalation. Like I was always ready to fight, and because that's kind of how it is in the Marines, you always have to be ready. But like on at San Jose State, I shouldn't have to always be ready to fucking fight. Like that's not a normal way. So like, you know, I was able to kind of deal with that. So yeah, I'm not sure how we got on there, but yeah.
What were some other struggles?
Coming
transitioning,
out?
Yeah.
So it's so transitioning out of the Marine Corps, it's a challenge because you lose your sense of identity, right? And like you go from this place where like purpose, you have this sense of purpose, right? So like if you just baseline purpose as this basic, you know, kind of high, in the Marine Corps, you're like freebasing the meth version of this shit. You have an immediate, super clear purpose all the time. You know exactly what you're supposed to do. Like there is a huge amount of freedom associated with the Marine Corps in the sense that you don't have to worry about where you're going to work, what you're going to wear, where you're going to eat, what job you're going to have, how much you're going to get paid, where you're going to get, like where your family's going to be, where your medical stuff's going to be. Like all that shit is taken care of so you can focus on the job, right? Because odds are the job isn't involved in combat or supporting combat operations. But if it is, you need to be on your fucking game, you know? So yeah. What was the question?
You wanted to know what were struggles when you left
struggles.
the military.
So yeah. So the identity thing was one. The anger and the aggression was another. Because that's the other thing is that the Marine Corps really cultivates anger and aggression because aggression, when properly channeled, can overcome any obstacle and weakness. So it's very important to cultivate and maintain a sense of anger and aggression in the Marine Corps because it's how we stay ready to fight. Like people don't like thinking about it, but do you want people who are going to be like, you know, more, what was it, self-conscious or more conscious people?
Yeah.
Or do you want people who are ready to fucking punch holes in people's faces because they feel like it? Like the Marine Corps is a place where aggression is rewarded from day one.
So it kind of sounds like the opposite of normal society.
100%. The Marine Corps is a primal society. It's an honor culture, right? So in an honor culture, you get shamed by the group, right? So like the Pashtuns in like Afghanistan, they're an honor culture. And what honor cultures do is that they impose a very a strict set of rules on you. And if you break these set of rules, you violate the code of honor. And if you violate the code of honor, you're like severe social consequences, right? So like that's actually one thing I did want to talk about was the concept of like what are values. Like, you know, I'm sure that like in your fraternity you guys talk about like what values are to your younger guys and like developing them and like making sure that you are clear on your values and why they exist and like what it really means to manifest them. But like I think honor is one of those things that's so lost on men because they don't have a group of other men to keep them accountable, because that's really what honor takes, is having an honor group that says, hey, that behavior is unacceptable. You will not do that behavior if you're going to be part of this group, right? Like I'm sure that there's a code of conduct or something for the fraternity, right?
Yeah, we absolutely do.
So like if they violate that code of conduct, it's like, hey, oh, that's a no-go. Like, you know, so that's why I like Greek life a lot, in that it provides that for a lot of guys. And I think it's really unfair when people say, oh yeah, you're paying for friends. Well, no, you're not. You do support the fraternity, but okay, bud, you have fun, you know. I don't know. I look at the average student's experience at San Jose State, and I just see it as kind of quietly depressing.
It's a very lonely life for the average student because nobody at this university wants to make friends.
Yeah, because they want to go home. They want to leave.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody wants to get their degree and get out of here. That's it. There's no identity to being a San Jose State student. There is no like, oh, I'm like, nobody really sits there and truly believes I am a Spartan. Yeah. Like nobody sits there and actually thinks about that and takes it seriously. Mm-hmm. There are people who maybe do it for the Instagram, you know, because they're obligated to, because they're involved with like student life. But nobody really genuinely actually has a loyalty to the school to act like This is
Yeah.
actually something bigger than myself.
Yeah, I hear
Having
what you're
something
saying.
larger than oneself is so important.
Absolutely.
But it's something that is completely lost on like 95% of people today. I think it's a ridiculous proportion of people who don't understand that there should be something bigger than yourself. Whether it's your church, whether it's your school, whether it's your fraternity, whether
Yeah.
it's your country, whatever it is, there should be something larger than yourself that your loyalties lie to more than they lie to yourself. And I think that most people don't have this.
No.
And I think to me, this is what is really the cause of any kind of moral decay or societal decline, whatever somebody wants to call it. It all has to do with the fact that people don't believe in something larger than themselves.
Yeah, 100%.
Whatever it is. It doesn't have to be anything specific. I don't care what it is, but you got to have something.
Yeah.
You got to find meaning somewhere.
Yeah.
We are all small creatures in an endless universe. And we need to understand that our place is to be small. And our place is to be a small part of something much larger.
I disagree with the end part. I think we should take over the galaxy. Like, I think we should cross the stars. And, like,
Oh no, that's not what I mean. I don't mean that we shouldn't expand. I mean that we should understand that
we're a small piece in the bigger part.
Yeah, there's way much more out there. Even
Yeah.
if we expanded to the whole galaxy, there's still infinite universe abroad, right?
Is that the goal though? After solving the climate change crisis?
Well, we
and the
won't need to
energy
solve
thing?
the climate change crisis if we leave the planet. Well, think of it this way, right? So, like, odds are that, like, humanity, what we're going to do, so unless we destroy ourselves, which even then I don't think we can do because there's too many of us now. I think what will happen is that we will build it so that everything will be basically in a, how can I say this? Like a pressurized, containerized city, like in the sense that all dwelling will be taking in place and outdoors won't really exist. It'll all just be mega cities like fucking Coruscant in Star Wars, right? It'll evolve to that point because once we develop interplanetary and interstellar travel, the ability to harvest resources from other places and logistically move them, especially with automated machines, will become feasible, right? So, like, think of it this way, like, all right, so the Earth has run out of fresh water, right? So we can have comets being mined in the asteroid belt that are bringing back literally billions of tons of fresh water daily, hourly, right? We need copper and shit to manufacture semiconductors on Earth. We can literally mine other planets, Mars. We can mine comets, asteroids. If we, start terraforming other planets.
What you're saying to me is that there's a lot of money to be made
There's always a lot of money to be made all the time.
in space.
In general. No matter what it is, there's always money to be made.
Value's always there, man. If you can deliver, even with pizza, like as simple as pizza, if you can create a fucking killer pizza, people will pay good money, man.
Ooh wee. What about a goddamn good podcast?
I think, for me, all right, so I don't know if you're asking advice, but for me, I would never pay for a podcast. I would much rather have the podcast be sponsored. Because that way, it's just, I don't know.
That's what we want.
Okay. Sponsor us, Domino's?
Yeah, there you go, Domino's.
Please.
We had Domino's.
Great pizza. We love Domino's, honestly.
Yeah.
We were just talking about how they had a comeback.
Yeah.
They used to be really bad. Everyone said, Domino's tasted like cardboard. Remember that?
Yeah, they did. They used to be bad, and now they're good.
Yeah,
They had a comeback, man.
They really, really did.
They tried.
They used to have. I remember when I was a kid, the pizza was really quite rubbish. That was the time when Pizza Hut was the king of the game.
Pizza fucking hot, man.
Like, I think Pizza Hut was always like the top of the game, and then it was maybe like
Round Table?
I love Round Table.
You know what? I
Table
never
pizza.
had
the
Round
last
Table.
honest pizza.
Yeah, man. I love Round Table.
What a slogan.
Yeah, it's really good. And it's a Bay Area company. It started in Menlo Park.
Where would you guys
what?
rate Papa John's on the list?
So
of
it
pizza
depends because
places?
you have to make Papa John's. So that's not a that's not a problem for me per se. But like, what happens if you fucking suck or your oven sucks Or
You don't have to make Papa John's. You're thinking of DiGiorno.
no, I'm thinking of Papa Murphy's. Take and bake pizza.
No, no.
Papa John's. Papa John's is owned by Shaquille O'Neal or part owner. Yeah, I don't know, man. I never really had it. I remember it being greasy, but like in a lot of cheese.
I feel like when I used to get Papa John's, they used to have a lot of like really bready crust.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, it was very much like when you got to the crust, it was like biting into a loaf of bread.
That's not
and
a good
it just wasn't what you wanted. You know,
no, not at all.
How do you guys feel about Little Caesars?
I think Little Caesars has a very special place in my heart for when I was younger and I couldn't afford a better pizza, and it fills up your calories. Okay, that's what it does. It does what it's supposed to do.
$5 hot and
It
ready.
tastes
Well, I
like
think it's like $5.17 now or something.
it tastes
It's
like
gotta be
Little
more than that,
Caesars, and that's fine.
No,
Because you know what? Like that's what it is. Like it's there for you when nobody else is. You know, like
old reliable.
it's exactly.
So, like, you know, kind of bridging to boot camp stories. So there's this thing in Marine Corps boot camp called Final Drill, and it's a series. So close order drill is basically like marching commands, right? And it's how to move people effectively from one place to another. And there's a competition held, but in the company, which is like one set of like 6 platoons, and each platoon has about like 50 to 60 dudes. So within this company, there is a competition of drill, right? And like how well it's executed, how creative it is, and like, well, really just how well it's executed because it's on standardized cards. So how well it's executed, and yeah. So if you win, you know, you get a prize. There's no prize. You just get hazed at a different location. But our prize was that we got Little Caesars. Our drill instructor snuck it onto the base and like snuck it in the barracks. And he's like, "All right, all you fuckers get one slice, go." And like we hadn't had like actual like junk food in like a really long time, so we could smell the garlic on each other like that night and shit. So yeah, it was wild, man. It was wild.
Damn.
It was one of the best. It was like the best pizza I'd ever had.
Oh my
Like
god!
it was all cheese. They were all cheese pizzas, and like it was good, man.
Only one slice, but it was probably the most memorable slice of your
It was
life.
the best slice of my life, man. I remember biting into that thing and it was like not even. It was like in that lukewarm state where it's like it's been in the car for 20 minutes, like because it was on Camp Pendleton, and like Camp Pendleton's like bigger than the state of Rhode Island. Wow. So yeah,
Where's that at?
Southern California.
It's in SoCal.
Yeah,
What?
it's San Diego. It's between San Diego and LA.
Oh wow, bigger than Rhode Island,
Bigger than Rhode Island.
and it's only Marines.
All Marines.
California is a really, really big place. I think a lot of people don't realize how
huge
large
it is.
California is.
Yeah.
California has so much space, and it's got such a varied landscape.
Yeah.
You really truly can find just about any type of land, any type of terrain that you want. You pretty much can find it in California, save for very few,
Like tropical rainforest.
yeah, like tropical rainforests or like
temperate
or
rainforest.
swamps. You know, like anything.
You could probably find swamps in California, but not like Florida swamps.
Yeah, like
Bayous, not bayous.
Yeah, exactly. You can't find like a bayou. You can't find like a rainforest, but like
The real
anything that's
tropical
really wet, right?
Yeah.
You can't find any really, really wet climates in California, but anything else you can find it,
shit. Yeah, for sure, man.
right? You can find forests, mountains, valleys, deserts. You can find like flatlands, all kinds of shit, right?
Yeah.
It's everywhere. We have everything. California is truly incredible in that we have so much to offer. And I honestly believe that it is the most beautiful state purely because we have the most different sites to offer. I don't think that there's any state that you could go to that it is as varied as California.
Yeah, that's fair.
Maybe Texas.
But Texas is
Bro, maybe Hawaii?
No,
Hawaii is just tropical
Hawaii is just a tropical rainforest island,
with
mountains.
the volcano.
That's it.
Yeah.
Are there deserts in Alaska?
Yeah.
Technically, yes,
yeah.
but it's not the same kind of desert.
Technically correct is the best kind of correct, though. But yeah, it's just a...
It's an ice desert.
It's an ice desert.
It's
Bro, yeah. Like the world's largest desert is
Antarctica, yeah.
You're right.
So yes, they technically do have deserts in Alaska, but it's not the same kind of desert. It's just you just have tundra and snowier tundra. That's it.
Tundra is just frozen
The
soil.
one thing that like struck out to me when I went to Alaska was that there's bears everywhere.
Fuck that.
There's-
When did you go to Alaska?
2014.
Fuck, dude.
You will
bears
just be
are
walking down
terrifying,
the
man.
street and there's be like a bunch of bears.
Nope, fuck that. Bears are one thing I do not fuck with.
You're
man.
driving the road, there'll be one crossing the street.
No, man.
Like
I think bears
You see,
are
like, 5 times a day.
honestly one of the few creatures in nature that has a 100% chance of killing your ass.
Oh yeah, dude.
Like
Wait,
there's
really?
there's very few things that you can
No.
fight
No, you cannot fight a bear.
that like a
You can't fight most animals. I think people greatly overestimate their capacity to fight animals. Outside of like when when the survival mode really kicks in, I think most people greatly underestimate like sentient beings' capacity for violence.
Oh, absolutely, right. So, but I think like if you put humans versus every other kind of animal in a
Right.
death match,
Right.
I think there's relatively few that are actually going to be able to beat us.
Like physically?
Like,
Ooh,
yeah,
what?
physically.
No, I think most animals would fuck us up.
not most.
Most.
Most mammals.
Like what animal? Like okay, so I'm saying like not like okay. So I'm not talking like small animals. I'm talking about like
Okay.
relatable size. Like
Large size mammals.
Anything that's our size is absolutely going to fucking kill us.
but like I
But,
would
like-
say down to like even like an Australian shepherd, like a dog. Like
Ooh.
I think a dog, like even a pack of dogs or like 2 dogs, if they bite your ankles and you can't fucking walk anymore, yeah, they're gonna get you.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I think it's yeah, because I always like there was this guy in the Marines who's like, yeah, dude, I'd fuck up a deer. I'm like, no, you wouldn't. He's like, yeah, I would. I'd fuck up a moose. I'm like, dude, a moose would
Not a moose.
fucking
a moose
murder
would
you.
demolish you.
They're 10 foot tall. They're,
They're
the
a
size.
fucking tank, dude. They're
Those
a
things are
fucking tank.
huge, and their legs are powerful.
And-
one fucking kick from a moose, you're dead. That's it.
Dude,
It's over.
fuck. That's why I fear bears, because bears kill moose.
Whoa.
Yeah, dude. Like grizzlies in Alaska can kill moose. Like not like fucking bull moose, like
Okay.
but like
The smaller ones.
smaller, feeble.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be absolutely fucking terrified
A moose is
to
a
come
tank.
face to face with a bear.
Dude,
like
fuck that. Fuck that.
I would. There would be zero. Like there again. Like there's 0% chances of you winning in a fight with a bear.
Well,
0%.
the other thing is like bears are pretty cowardly. So like when we were in SEER
well,
school,
they wouldn't engage you, but like if you happened to be engaged with a bear,
yeah, well, yeah, then
there's
you're fucked.
there's a
You-
0% chance you are winning.
unless you have a knife and you start stabbing them in the neck very fast.
Ooh.
That's what I used to say.
You have to be very lucky.
Stay armed, stay strapped.
What was that movie that like Leonardo DiCaprio like
The
fought a
Revenant.
bear? Ooh,
He
that
didn't
was
fight
good
a bear.
one.
He got his ass killed by a bear almost.
Right. That was the whole
He
like,
just-
cataclysm of the movie. Like
Yeah,
that happened. And
like he was just kind of walking in the woods, and then he saw the little bears, and by then it was too late.
right, and then it's like a revenge story.
Well, yeah, that is. Well, the whole thing's a revenge story because, like, well, I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, it's a pretty fucked up tale, and it's a pretty incredible story. And Leonardo DiCaprio is an excellent actor.
He deserved it for sure, best
for
actor.
sure.
But ever since then, he kind of went on he stopped acting. He got the
He's-
Oscar and like dipped.
Yeah, he's just now doing like low because he used to only do like Oscar quality stuff. He only did movies with kick-ass directors for very specific like S tier movies, and now he's doing like bullshit on Netflix. So
Wait, really?
didn't he do a movie on Netflix? Don't Look Up. Wasn't that?
Oh,
with Leo?
I saw that. Yeah, that movie was depressing.
Yeah. So like I don't know, man. Like I don't see climate change like as not a big issue, but it's like one of those things like, yeah, we can solve it. Just stop fucking like telling everyone about it and start planting trees and shut the fuck up. Like because the first thing is the agriculture methods we use are what is really driving climate change. And until we address that, we're never really going to solve anything. Secondly,
Yeah, palm oil deforestation.
palm oil deforestation are elements, but it's more about the annual agriculture system versus a permaculture ecosystem. Because think of it this way: there are no wheat fields in nature. This is a static state that we are imposing on the ground on the environment that we believe should be weed free, bug free, like All right, are you guys? Well, I don't want to ruin McDonald's fries for everyone, so I won't do that.
Oh,
But
do it.
okay, so well, if we want to edit it out, you can.
Okay, well, maybe.
So basically, what happens is that McDonald's likes their fries to be really long, right? And it requires a very specific type of potato that's genetically modified to grow very straight and very long. Now, in order for this potato to grow to McDonald's standards, which means it doesn't have any brown spots. So if you'll notice in McDonald's fries, there's no brown spots, like in possibly in In-N-Out fries or like, other whole cut fries, right? They're all clean, pristine fucking potatoes.
Golden brown, or they're like yellowy.
Yeah, exactly. And this comes from so the brown spots come from an aphid, which is just a small little like bug-like life form that lives in the ground, and it's part of the food soil web. And basically what happens is, since McDonald's doesn't like those brown spots, they use a very powerful insecticide to kill this thing. This insecticide is so powerful that when farmers spray it, they typically don't leave their house for about 4 to 5 days.
Ooh, okay, wow.
And then when they harvest it, they have to let this toxin air out of the potatoes. So they have to let the potatoes vent for about a week. So once they harvest them, they put them in a big ass like warehouse where there's fans pushing air up underneath them to vent out all the shit. So that's how McDonald's so it's little things like that. But it really started. So it depends on how you want to look at it, whether you want to start it from the oil crisis or the end of World War II. So if we start from the end of World War II, what happened was you had DuPont and Dow Chemical and all these other arms manufacturers who had all this excess nitrogen that they had made, and they had all these weapons and what to do with explosives, turn them into fertilizer, right? So you have now the chemical fertilization. So I think when history looks back, they'll look at us unleashing the power of the sun as the thing that changed everything. Because now we're starting to use synthetic chemicals in our food supply, right? And so these synthetic chemicals started being used, and up until the 70s, no one was really noticing any negative effects. It was increasing yields. It was creating more food, and that's what you want. You always want a food surplus. You don't even want to be close to anywhere near not having a food surplus. It's better to waste a shit ton of food than be close to a non-food surplus. And what I mean is that you don't want to be like, if you have 100 people, you don't want to have 101 things, because what happens if you...
Yeah, it's better to have 200 meals for 100 people than have 101 meals for 100 people.
Yeah.
Because then you're certain that they're not going to go hungry.
Yeah.
It's harder for people to go hungry the more excess food supply you have.
Yeah. And you don't want, and when you start making those decisions, that's how governments change. Food rights, man. Anyways, I lost train of what we were talking about.
World War II really was it changed.
Point. Yeah.
It changed so many
everything.
things, man.
Changed everything.
I think truly the most incredible and probably most harmful thing that came out of that time is PFOAs. And
What's PFOA?
I couldn't even fucking pronounce what it stands for, but it's a chemical that basically doesn't break down, and it sits in, if you consume it, it sits in your body for the rest of your life, and it accumulates, and it slowly poisons you. This is things that used to be in the original Teflon coating in pans, so like nonstick coatings. That's what it's used a lot for. They put it in like raincoats. They put it in a lot of waterproofing type stuff.
Not anymore, right?
Not anymore. Well, it's still not officially regulated by the EPA, but most companies don't use it anymore. But this is stuff that they used to put in just any kind of waterproofing. Usually, they would even put it in food packaging. It would be in the liners for the bag of chips. You know, they would put it in all kinds of shit, and it was slowly murdering you. Right, because this shit is just slowly building up in your body, and it would give you all kinds of cancer, and your teeth would fall out, and this is all this horrible shit. And you can hear more about it in a documentary film called Dark Waters. And it's, to me, I think that is by far the most long-lasting, destructive thing that is affecting everybody's daily life that came out of the 40s in terms of like those chemicals that were developed, because a lot of other things don't get used, right? We don't use nuclear weapons on a regular basis. We don't use chemical weapons on a regular basis, right? These are things that don't get used by the majority of civilized governments in the world, right? Whereas PFOAs are everywhere. You are consuming it. I guarantee you that everybody sitting in this room has at least some level of PFOA in their blood. Like, everybody in America does. Everybody in the world does.
I've
right?
definitely eaten McDonald's fries.
Yeah, me too, man.
Like, we definitely have levels of chemicals in our body that are unacceptable because they are not natural.
Yeah.
But like, there's nothing we can do about it in terms of like today, like just snap our fingers.
We need to start the revolution, man. That's all.
I mean,
the authoritarian government. That would be the second thing I address is the food supply, right? So we're going to abolish the system that only serves, like, first of all, the food system doesn't serve everyone. And most of the food that's produced is non-nutritional GMO dent corn or soybeans that's used for animal feed. Secondly, there's no nutritional value in dent corn. Third, introducing a agroforestry model in which we use intensive planting methods, creating a more sustainable system, one that provides food, fuel, fiber, building materials, cosmetics, and medication at profit for farmers, I think is the model we would need to adapt. We could rebuild our food supply, make it more robust, remove the GMO stuff, make school lunches far more affordable, and all that shit. Like, basically, I think school lunch should be free. I don't think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't think kids should have like that. That's
public school lunch is so bad. Like, the quality is
hideous.
It feels like prison.
Yeah,
I think it's embarrassing that we would deny food to a child.
Yeah,
I understand why an adult has to work for a meal, but a child shouldn't have to. I think that's a bit ridiculous. This notion that like, oh, well, if your parents didn't work hard enough, well, then you just don't get to be fed. So that sucks to be you. Like,
that's unfortunate, but I also think parents need to be held to account as well.
Oh, of course, they should be held to account. And if you should definitely be punished in this situation because you've allowed this to happen. However, it's inevitable that the situation will happen at one point or another. So you have to be prepared as a society to be able to remedy that.
Sure.
Even though you shouldn't have to, but you will have to.
Yeah. Because
people are imperfect, and there's no way that we can eliminate shitty parents from the planet. It's just not going to happen unless you want to have some extremely dictatorial shit. But I don't think that that's the route that most people would want to go.
Here's the thing, man. You need a license to be a barber. You don't need a license to have a kid. Right. So the idea that any fucking person can just start popping out human beings that are going to start inheriting the planet that we're going to have to deal with is a little absurd to me. Like, I think that if you are, let's say, a child predator or a rapist or something like that, you should be sterilized. I think that if you're I think that if you are a child abuser or something like that, or you have had a history of documented like abusive behavior, you should be sterilized. And it goes for men and women. Like, we act like women can't be toxic people, especially as mothers, but they can be incredibly harmful to people. So, like, this idea that parenthood is this, it's a very complex thing, right? Because
I don't know. I think a lot of people would argue that parenthood is a right. Now,
it's not a right at all.
I don't agree with them, but I think a lot of people would say that it's a right.
It's not a right at all. No. You don't get, like, just because the context of being able to have children so freely nowadays is something that's majorly lost on people, because historically, you probably didn't get a pass on your genes because you either weren't part of the right, like, social status, or you didn't have the resource to actually like support a family. Like, the overwhelming majority of people weren't really able to support families. It was a intensive agrarian effort, with a very large family living fucking dirt poor, right? And now we have the situation where people can have kids, just because they can. There's no need for them, like, because kids used to be labor, right? So like in the third world, when like boys are 9 years old, they start having to produce more than they consume in their households, right? And most people don't appreciate that still. So it's just, to me, it's one of those things that, like, the United States is very unique in the way we advance certain causes at the expense of others. Like, body positivity is definitely one of them that I find just kind of fucking hilarious, because you never see it towards men. It's only oriented towards women. Like, the idea of accepting a person as they look. You never see, men being told to be accepted. It's always women's, looks that have to be accepted. So I've always found that to be a very strange thing.
I was watching Doctor Strange 2 last night, and it dawned on me that, like, nowadays, like, the MCU, the men are more sexualized than the women.
Yeah, because, so, like, remember, our entire society is moving to support females, and unfortunately that's probably going to be our demise, because no society that has advanced female achievement over men's has survived. On top of that, there is no evidence that any society has actually been run by females, outside of a few small groups. Right. But I would rather. So here's the thing. So the way I see it is that our society is trying to move to a what's the word? Matriarchy.
Matriarchy,
right?
Like, women are placed more important, or
yeah, exactly. And
et cetera.
there is one group of people in the United States who currently live in a matriarchy, the black Americans. Black women make most of the decisions in the households.
Oh, okay,
right, because so I think it was, so rest in peace, Kevin Samuels. He died today. He was yeah, I don't know if you know who he is.
The YouTuber.
Yeah, he died. I don't know how, but he did die. But upwards of 70, I think it was 70 to 80% of black kids are born out of wedlock. 1 in 4 black women will marry, and those two figures right there are going to result in terrible things, just fucking horrible things for the black community. Like, it's to me, it's a very passionate issue, because I've seen it unfold with one of my friends, and basically a society. So, okay, backing it up. Prior to civil rights, black people were married at a rate of about 80%, higher than any other fucking group in the United States by a significant margin. And then with Lyndon B. Johnson's the what's it called? The Great Society. Yeah, the Great Society, that kind of fucked everything up, because now women were saying, "Oh, well, we're independent now." And I always kind of ask, independent of what? Because you still, like, I always find it very interesting when women are like, I don't want to be a mom. I'd much rather work. I'm like, why would you want to be attached? Like, first of all, working fucking sucks. Like, unless you're one of those very lucky people who has a job that's fucking amazing, like, odds are working is just fucking tedious. I would much rather spend time with my family. Mm-hmm. On top of that, like, why would you want to go from, like, have you seen Ali Wong, Baby Cobra? She's a comedian.
Oh, it's the stand-up.
Yeah, the pregnant woman, right?
Yeah, the Asian woman.
Yeah. And she's like, I am so mad at whoever the fuck, whatever dumb bitch said, we want to work too. Because we had it so good. We were like, oh, we're too dumb to work. We'll just stay at home and you go do all the work, and we'll just stay home and spend your money. And now they want their own money, which I guess, they want their agency to be able to go, live their best life, which I think is a disastrous way for them to live, because unfortunately, I don't know how much of this is going to be edited out, but
I might keep it in. Honestly, I like this talk, but it's just like
so here's the thing, man. Like, I think unfortunately, like women are going to get outcomes that they didn't necessarily bargain for, and I think that options aren't presented to them in a fair and meaningful way, because most women in school are averse to marriage, right? And because the idea, they don't see a man as anything more than a sort of utility, like, right? Like, they don't want to get married to get married. They want to get married for Instagram. You know what I mean? Oh.
Wow, that's deep.
Yeah, well,
just to take the happy husband wedding pics.
Yeah, man. That's like,
So you think they treat a husband as an accessory?
Oh, absolutely. So here's what, like, this might be a little too depressing, but the contract used to be that, you know, if you were a man who was able to provide for his family, her pussy was yours. But now it's just your turn. So, like, the idea that, you know, women have all this sexual agency, that's fine. But the idea that men are going to tolerate, you know, a woman who goes to her, they call it, I don't know, they call it the fun phase or whatever they call it, when they're just, you know, sleeping with whoever tickles their fancy. And by all means, do you, but understand that there are also consequences at the back end, that like when you're 28 and looking to settle down and the dude recognizes that you're really good at giving head and he doesn't want to see you after that, that's a fucking sign.
I think this is like happening. Would you say that, would you agree that this is happening in America? But what about like other parts of the world?
I would say all Western countries that are emphasizing female achievement. So here's a few things are happening, right? Females are now achieving more than ever before. That's fine. No problem with that at all. You do you get yours. The problem is that men have also consequently gone down because we've destroyed any male building structures, right? Because women just are. You can just become, you don't have to become a woman. You just are a woman, because once you go through puberty, you get tits and you have your period.
You have the value. Right?
You have all the value in the fucking world, man.
Yep.
But a man has to become, right? So that's why, like, it's really important for men to surround themselves with mentors and peers who have their best interests and are able to kill the boy so the man can live. Because that's the problem, is that too many people today are called men, but they are just adolescent. They're just perpetual adolescents, right? You have to kill the boy. Like, that part of you has to die in order for the man to live.
Should men just delete Instagram?
I don't know, man. I can't tell you what to do with your Instagram, man. Like, I think Instagram, if it's making you money, then yeah, keep it. But if it's just something you're using to distract yourself with, I don't think it's a healthy way to spend your time.
Okay. I
would say there are better things to look at, things to do.
I need Instagram right now because marketing for my podcast. So that's the main way I do it. I actually delete Instagram. I don't have Instagram on my phone.
Yeah.
So I only have it on my computer.
Does it work for business on the computer?
Well, I just need to upload shit on the account. I don't use it really to browse or whatever.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. Like Instagram, so the reason I think social media is bad, because it's a false reality, right? Yeah. It gives you this sort of like anchor point on another sense of approval that doesn't really exist, right? Because how much do you care when you just hit like on something? We don't really like give a shit. It's just like, oh, that's neat. Neat. Like sometimes, yeah, you'll give a shit.
It's a distraction.
But it's just like, neat.
Dopamine hits.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I only use social media for the memes. Like, I'm not the sort of person who's really into like.
I love the memes too.
Like being in like I don't care about influencers, right? I don't follow any influencers.
I want to fuck a few of them.
I don't. You know, I don't look at their pages. Right. I don't care what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, but I love memes, and so like personally, I don't think I could ever give up social media just because I'm such a memer person. But like,
I miss the military memes for sure. That's like, one thing I miss.
But in terms of like, you know, trying to get likes and wanting likes and wanting to live the life that somebody else is living, like, no, I'm good.
Yeah,
and I think social media has poisoned society to the point that that mentality doesn't even stay on social media anymore. It follows you into the real world. I think there's a lot of people whose only goal in life is to feel like they have a better life than somebody else.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only thing they want. They're not happy being who they are. They want to portray an image of somebody that is better than.
I think it just goes back to discipline. I don't think there's anything wrong with looking at memes or having Instagram. Like, part of life is enjoying the moment. If you like looking at memes, it makes you laugh.
Yeah.
Why not? But like, to the point where you have the discipline to still like accomplish your goals, put food on the table, go to work, etc.
Well, I mean,
accomplish your goals.
So for me, social media was getting me angry, because like anger is the fastest thing to engage, and the Facebook algorithm is very, very good. And like I quit right before the November election just because it was just getting too much. I was like, I can't deal with this, man. Like, because I was just angry all the time, and like, because I'm a pretty conservative person, if that wasn't evident. And I think, neoliberal progressivism that we see now is just a big fucking scam.
I think it's a very ironic ideology in the sense that it on everything that really matters, it's exactly the same as any of our other options, right? It's when the difference between a woke neoliberal and a fracking neocon is just that one will put a heart and a hashtag BLM and a pride flag in their Twitter bio, and one won't. Because at the end of the day, they're all going to bomb kids in Afghanistan. They're all going to bomb kids in Syria. They're all going to do those things, right? Not a single one of them is going to stop engaging in foreign wars.
Donald Trump did.
I mean, did he though? Because during his entire time, he was still in Afghanistan.
But he wasn't expanding the role. So, like, he fucked up Afghanistan too. Like, don't get me wrong, but Afghanistan is not something that we could have just, like... I disagree with us pulling out of Afghanistan. Because us being in Afghanistan afforded Pakistan and women in Afghanistan a peace that they had not known. And now... an entire generation of women who grew up without the Taliban now live under the Taliban. So I think it's very interesting to, especially like, you were talking about like wanting the same thing. And I find it very interesting because when you ask women, right, like most women on this college campus, I would guarantee you are overwhelmingly pro-choice, right? And, where that idea comes from, I'm not sure. But if you ask them about a vaccine mandate, they would probably say, yeah, they're pro-vaccine mandate as well because, why not? Why wouldn't you be pro-vaccine mandate? But the problem becomes, does the government have the authority to tell you what to do with your body? And if the government doesn't have the authority to tell you what to do with your body, then you have the right to not have the vaccine. Therefore, vaccine mandates are a violation of pro-choice.
But see, the thing is that it's not really about general principles. It's about whatever the progressive person said.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So
it's not about actual
progressives
real
are
principles.
Yeah, they have no principles. It's about appearing virtuous, virtue signaling. That's all it is. Like that's why I find it so laughable that corporations have adopted all these fucking like pride and everything else that's sort of like Black History Month, like trying to corporatize every diversity element that they can because it costs them so little, but the return can be so great because if you start buying from a company because you think that they support whatever you want to support, that's a good for the company. So I just find it very ironic that, like all these, like, especially with Pride Month, I just find it hilarious because companies that do some pretty fucked up things, like, just be like, oh yeah, but we love gay people.
Oh yeah.
I just
and Nike will have sweatshops in Vietnam, but if they release a Pride shoe, everybody's gonna go, oh wow, they're so progressive and good.
Exactly, dude.
And it's like, or they'll be against the very groups that they claim that they support. They'll employ labor from Saudi Arabia, which notoriously is anti-gay. And then they'll sit there and they'll be like, oh, we're very pro-gay. We hashtag Pride Month,
Yeah.
And they'll sponsor a float in the West Hollywood Parade or whatever.
Yeah, man.
And as a gay person, I love me some rainbow crap, but like, man, a lot of it's just it is just bullshit, and I know that. Like it's
and that's what I want to ask is like, can the gay community kind of see through the pandering, like? Because that's how I would feel it as like pandering, like, because anytime someone says like that as a person of color or anything, like I'm oppressed, I'm like, who the fuck do you think you are to say that to me? First of all, I'm an American, so I'm capable of doing whatever the fuck I want. I don't live in a society that limits me in any fucking way. If I can produce value for others, they're going to let me do it. It doesn't matter who the fuck I am. Secondly, like, would you ever tell your child that they're limited in any way? Like, what kind of dumb ideology are we trying to cultivate, and where we let people kind of codify victim mentality into their mindset? That's why, like, that's what makes me so angry, is because, like, when you see this hyper progressive thing being pushed onto children, it's one of those things that I'm like, yo, why are we doing this? Like, why do 8-year-olds need to know about, like, sexual orientation? Because that seems unnecessary. Like if an 8-year-old is going through early puberty, okay, maybe isolate that child and talk to them. But, like, outside of that, I don't see the necessary, like, are they doing so well in their other courses, like other coursework, that they need to start learning about this?
I don't know. To me, I think that there shouldn't be any explicit, like, let's talk about gay people. But, like, if you happen to read a storybook and 2 of the characters are gay, so be it, right? We're exposing them to straight people. Exposing them to gay people is no different. But I don't think that we should have to explicitly say, these 2 characters are gay, and that's okay at 8 years old.
Yeah.
Right? And we shouldn't be saying the same thing about straight people either, right? You shouldn't have to say, these people are straight, and that's okay. Like, that, none of it should have to be a conversation at 8 years old.
Right.
Like, I don't think that whether straight or gay children should have to be exposed to anything like that. I think
school
that's a
should be
little
about
bit ridiculous.
school. Yeah, like this idea that, like, I understand like, one of the arguments is that, like, if a child feels isolated because, they might identify that something that's not represented, okay, that might cause stress for the child. Well, like, okay, I can appreciate that, but, like, I still don't fully buy that argument, in the sense that, hold on, I'm really high, and my mind is moving faster than I can talk, and, like, that's kind of proving a problem. What are we talking about?
Children and, like,
yeah. Okay, so basically, like, so we can't indoctrinate children into religion, right? So, like, why would we indoctrinate them into an ideology? And I say an ideology because if one of your beliefs can predict your other beliefs, you're in an ideology. And I don't think people should be in ideologies. I think you should use critical thinking to create because you couldn't really pin me in a political hole. And I'm likely the most diverse person most people will meet, because they don't really meet a lot of Marines who've been I don't know, like, I like to think I'm pretty diverse in terms of my background.
How are you so diverse?
I'm not that diverse, actually. Like, now that I think about it, I'm the son of immigrants. That's not that diverse. A lot of people are. I'm a Marine. There's a lot of us, but not that many. I'm not that diverse. I'm from the Bay Area. I guess I was born in the 80s. I don't know.
Great decade.
Yeah. Well, I guess. Depends on who you were.
Yeah. Better than no, you lived in a time before smartphones and the internet.
Yeah.
And all
So
that's
the
you were a dying breed.
Yeah, man. Like, so I was actually talking about this with a friend. It's like, will digitally native people be able to iterate on the internet in a way that will make it more as meaningful as it was to the people before the internet existed? Meaning, like, people don't actually appreciate how accessible information is now. The idea of being able to get anything you want instantaneously is fucking insane. Like, just like renting a movie, right? You can literally watch a movie on your phone now, whereas I remember you would have to go plan a trip to Blockbuster, go rent the video, go watch it, rewind it, and take it back before it was due. And, like, that was a big deal, And now you can watch anything anytime.
Going to Blockbuster was a big deal.
Yeah, Blockbuster exists.
I remember going to Blockbuster, but I usually went to Hollywood Video. That was the chain that we would go to.
Yeah.
But it was the same thing, basically. And you know what? I feel like there's nothing more satisfying in my mind as a memory than going to a Hollywood Video and picking out, like, a video or a DVD and, like, getting a pizza and, like, riding in my mom's minivan home and, like, having like a Coca-Cola and a pepperoni pizza, sat in front of the TV watching Shrek 2 on DVD or whatever.
Right.
Some bullshit from my childhood that, like, I feel like that is the most satisfying, like, piece of my life.
Yeah.
Like I feel like there was no worries about like anything, right? There was
'Cause
no
that's what
worries
childhood
about
is.
society. There was no worries about like having to work and like
The
support
innocence,
myself,
yeah.
right? Like
Wow.
everything was just fine.
Taken care of.
Everything was okay.
Yeah, 10
And
years old.
everything was normal. I think that's one of the biggest things about growing up that I haven't really liked is that now I realize how not fucking normal the world is. And it was always not normal.
It's never been.
But it gets wackier every day. And I think that is something I really don't like about being an adult. And it's something I really wish I could get back from being a child is the sense of normalcy in the world. Things felt okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that for me, that means that my mom did a really good job at making the world feel okay.
Yeah.
Because really that's what it is. It's our parents who
Right.
who do the job of making us feel that everything's stable.
Right.
And so to me, that means my mom did a really fantastic job because now as an adult, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? There's some weird bullshit that's going on every fucking day. The weird gets weirder. The world gets weirder. The weird gets worlder. You know, I don't know, man. It's a problem and I don't like it.
It is, man. But on that note, I think I'm going to call it for the evening, gentlemen. So I don't know how we need to wrap this up, but...
Dude, it's been 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Oh,
It's been a long...
This has been an amazing episode, Asad.
I'm glad I
we
could
would
be
love
part
to
of
have
it.
you back. I'm serious.
All right, man.
Anytime
Hopefully the feedback
over summer.
isn't too bad. Yeah, man. Maybe you guys can, come out and... Because I'll be moving to Davis for this job.
Oh.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's not that far. It's
We
like
love a Davis trip, yeah.
It's a 2-hour drive, man.
I've never been to Davis.
It's a bunch of cows and hot Asian chicks.
Cool.
Good boba places.
Yeah, man, hot Asian chicks.
Asad, anything you would like to say? Anything to shout out about yourself?
No, not really. Add me on LinkedIn, and if you want to be taken seriously, take things seriously.
Okay.
Okay,
Asad-
we'll see you next week, everybody. Like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Subscribe on Spotify. Like and follow our Instagram and our TikTok and all that other garbage. Please do
Follow us on Spotify. Thanks, guys.